episode 190, Ironman 70.3 Waco with Raul. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in there for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Welcome back to the pursuit of the perfect race. Today I'm talking with my friend Raul Luzardo about his recent race at Waco 70.3 that took place on October 28th, 2018. The swim was canceled that day, and the temperature on race day was 54 and rose to 85. Raul is a coach with Outrival Racing, and he has a lot of information and a lot of knowledge that he brings to the podcast. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to diving in and spending some time with you today, man.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for inviting me, man.
Hey, you're welcome. So, what made you want to do this race in the first place, man?
I knew a lot of people around the community that was going to do the race, and it seemed like an exciting, a good opportunity to do off. The time of the year worked out for me with all the other races that I did this year. Nice. So it really worked out the time, and I needed another 70.3 race by the end of the year, so I wanted to put that there. With the council of Austin, they moved it to Waco, and everybody talking about, so I decided to do the Waco race.
Cool. So why did you pick this race? What other races did you do this year?
I decided to take an easy year on the Ironman distance, the long distance. So I moved a little bit more on the cycling side. I did Leadville 100, the middle of the year, so that was my A race. And then I did the Galveston 70.3, and I did Waco. I didn't do that many races this year on the triathlon side. At least on the 70.3 distance, I did some sprints and Olympics, but not as many 70.3s.
Okay. So I know you've been around the triathlon block before, and this isn't your first year doing this. So knowing that you're coming off of Leadville 100, which is a mountain bike race, and then going into this, what was your training like? How did you come off of that race and then go into this one with your training?
My year was pretty similar to any other years, with the difference that I didn't have an Ironman on the middle, like to be an A race. I started the year. I had a very long off season after my last race last year, and I decided to, I needed like a break at that point. I did 2 Ironman last year, and I decided to take a long break after that. So I gained some weight, stay away from training, did very short runs. And then by March, I did the Woodlands Marathon, the Woodlands Half Marathon. I did the Woodlands Half Marathon. Then, by that point, I already knew that I was going to do the Leadville 100 in August. So I registered for a local race called the Austin Rattler. That is like a qualifying race where you can get your spot on the corrals in Leadville. So I trained for that. I did a lot of mountain biking, some other mountain bike races of that year. But pretty much I had a big block of running at the beginning of the year. I always cycling and swim all the time. Like I swim 3 times a week and I ran and I run all the time. So I keep cycling, running, and then I did the half marathon. The half marathon was in the first week of March, so then I had a more specific half Ironman training, more run and breaks and bike, more specific for half Ironman on my tri bike. And a week before the Galveston 70.3, I did the Rattler, brutal race, 60 miles of mountain bike here in Austin, very hard. The trails were in very bad conditions, and it made it pretty hard. And then I did the Galveston race. After Galveston, pretty much my training was 100%. focus on the Leadville race, but I kept running. I was running between 20 to 25 miles a week just to try to keep my pace and swimming 3 times a week. But it was about 10,000 meters. Okay. So pretty much that's what I was swimming. I always keep try to not completely stop. Doesn't matter what race it is. So that's what I was looking for in this case.
Okay. So
after that, just I finished Leadville, and then it was 100% half Ironman.
Right. So after Leadville, you recovered a little bit, then you got it right into full triathlon training. What was your longest swim, bike, or runs going into Waco?
My longest, the swim, I keep it consistent. I just put out an extra swim. I like to swim more times and not more distance. So I'd rather to put let's draw a number. If I'm swimming 3,000, I keep those 3,000 and they just put another swim of 2,500 or 3,000. So that give me 12,000 at the end of the week, and not increase by 4,000. Just add an extra one. That gives me a better feel for the water, and really I like it better,
Okay.
Something I like. For the bike, I rode 80. My longest ride was 4.5 hours. That was about 85 miles. And the run, I ran, I think 13 miles. That was the longest run. But, of course, it was blocks of 40 miles a week. Depends on the week. The same on the bike.
So are you doing a lot of breaks in training?
Yes. Pretty much every, in a week I do 3 or 4 breaks, depending on the week.
Okay. What about strength training?
I do TRX. Works out pretty well for me. I'm a big guy, so I don't need really weights. I need more strength more than weights. I don't need to get any more muscle. So that's pretty much what works out for me. Okay. TRX works pretty well.
So going into this race, what specific workouts did you do that gave you the confidence to go into this race prepared?
I like the long 20-minute rides with on my what they call a threshold power. That keeps my, and I really at that point I really know for the heart rate that I have what power I can hold, and they give me a pretty good feeling there of how I can do on race day. So do a 2 by 20 minutes on the what we call a threshold, not a threshold, or an anaerobic heart rate, and we call it what the regular, we call it Sun 2. That is, in this case, will be Sun 3 for the rest of the world, but for the QT2 world, it's Sun 2. But we do a lot of those, but that progress, that you don't start with those workouts. You start with the shorter workouts in a more aerobic way, and then you start escalating to the point that you get to the anaerobic workouts. But those are in the misery weeks, the last 2 weeks before the race, or 2-3 weeks before the race. That's the misery weeks. So,
okay. So you're using power, obviously?
I use power. Yes, I've been using power, especially for the bike, but I try to correlate it a lot with the heart rate. So I try to correlate power versus heart rate and try to play a little bit with those two. If it is, you need to be careful with power, because depending on how hot it is, how you can have your heart rate can go too high. So that's pretty much what I do. Not saying that everybody does it like that. It works out for me.
So do you train with power and heart rate zones, or is it just heart rate zones?
Well, if you think about it, if I have if I set a heart rate for my race, I know what power I can hold for that power, for that heart rate, or for that range of heart rate. So let's throw a number. Let's say that my number is my race heart rate. Let's say that is 152, 153. And I know that I can put 250 watts into 152, 153 because you have trained on that. And pretty much that's what I do. I correlate that. And then the same I do on training. If I'm going to do an aerobic workout, like I'm going to go 4 hours aerobic and then let's say do another 30 minutes anaerobic. I say, okay, I'm going to stay on 200 watts and then jump to 220 and stay on those 2 powers all the time. Monitoring that if my heart rate has been too high for too long, let's slow down a little bit. That's pretty much the way that I do it. Okay. Not meaning that I'm sure that Starbucks have a different system, but
right. Yeah. So on the 85-mile bike ride that you did, what was your power goal for that, or did you have a heart rate goal? What was that like?
I did it by power. I did it pretty much by power. I tried to hold the same power all the time, uphill, downhill, flat, windy, backwards. I try to, and that's what I tell my athletes that train on power. If you're going to do a long distance race, doesn't matter that you feel fantastic at the beginning, just stay on the same power from the beginning to the end, and that's going to work out. You can negative split it at the end, but the goal is that you ramp it up. Don't start hard and slow down at the end. So
right. So are you wanting to just hit a normalized power then, it sounds like?
No, well, you do it by... At the end of the day, what really matters is how you distribute that power to your ride. So if we go back to the 4-hour workout, you want to start at 200 watts and stay on 200 watts all the time. If the workout has maybe at the end you say, okay, you're at the end of the last 45 minutes, you're going to do it at 220, but you keep that power. You don't want to start at 240 watts for 30 minutes and then at the end be on 160. That's still going to give you 200 watts on average, but
right.
The distribution is different.
You don't want the variability index to be sky high. You want it to be nice and low.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Spiking and
it's more a flat, not like crazy.
Right. All right, so being that you're wanting to hit this, are you wanting to hit a specific power number for you, or do you have a zone that you want to go off of?
For this race, I wanted to hit a specific zone. I talked to my coach, and she gave me some numbers there that I wanted to hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that y'all go off of a lot of heart rate zones for running. Do y'all do the same thing? I don't think y'all use power for running, do you?
No, we do it. We do by heart rate.
Okay. So with that, do you have a certain way you like to set up your heart rate zones?
For this specific race or in general?
Just in general.
Yeah, we have I don't know. We use a different set of heart rate zones for the team that I'm working for QT2 and Outrival. We have what we call a recovery zone. That for the rest of the world is what they call zone 1. We have a recovery zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So the recovery, of course, is the easy day to flush your legs from the electrics, all the lactate and all that. Then you go to zone 2, that is your aerobic. Zone 1, that is your aerobic ride. You're going to go 1 hour in zone 1. And then you go to zone 2, that is when you're going to do a little bit more of intervals, but not super intense intervals. The intense intervals come on zone 3. But those are short, very intense intervals. But those are the zones that we work on.
So there's no zone 4, or is zone 3 the highest?
There's a zone 4 if you can make it, but we have a zone 4. You can have a zone 4, but how many times are you going to get there on training or racing, depending on the distance? If you're racing an Olympic distance or a sprint distance, yeah, you're going to make it to zone 4. But it's something that you say at that point is whatever you have,
Right. Now, for somebody that's just getting into heart rate zone training and they're doing the 4 or 5 zone system just like this, a lot of people find it very hard to stay in that zone 1 and zone 2 when they first start. Did you experience this as well?
I've been doing this for a long, long time. I've been about 15, 16 years in triathlons. But I see that struggle a lot with new athletes all the time, trying to get into that. And they're thinking, I'm going so slow on this heart rate, But what I try to tell my athletes is that what you're trying to look is for how many workouts you can put in a week. You try to stay on the same heart rate, on the same zone. Even if you are running 11, 12-minute mile, you still should stay on your heart rate zone. So, and the other problem with the heart rate is that your heart rate is going to be, with the same effort, it can have a variable with heat, with your, how tired you are, stress, all those other factors. So you can go out at noon and your heart rate is going to be 10, 15 beats higher than what it's going to be if you run in the morning with zero humidity. So there's a variability there. So just try to stay on your heart rate, trust your coach at that point, because that's one of those big points where the relationship of coach and athlete is tested. Why am I running so slow? Why am I biking so slow? Why are you making me do this on this heart rate? Yeah, at that point, it's almost trust your coach. In a month, you're going to see that it's going to come up. Just trust your coach. Do the workouts that he's giving you on that heart rate. That's going to allow you to do all the workouts that the coach is giving you. Later, we're going to work a little bit different, and you can start playing with having over-unders or having a little bit more internals and, to be a little bit more specific. But at that point, what you're trying to do is set a base and also is get the people used to work on those heart rate zones. Regularly, what I do is that I have I set up like a generic heart rate. I set up generic heart rate zones for the first month, for the first cycle, pretty much. And then we do a test to determine the lactate threshold. But I will say like 90% of the times I'm very close to the number that is going to give me the lactate threshold there. So it's that first month is always a struggle. I'm going so slow. I should run faster. Especially athletes that have been for a while training without a coach, they struggle a little bit.
And what's the longest that you've seen it take someone to actually get to the point of, all right, they can actually run and stay in zone 2 for the run? What's the longest you've seen?
Second? How long it takes for that person to get used to that?
So when they first start training, they can't keep their heart rate in that zone for the entire time they run. So how long what's the longest that you've seen it take someone to get to that point?
3 weeks, pretty much, takes the period. Regularly, it's like the first cycle. I have 3 weeks of training and 1 week of recovery. So on the first cycle, after the first cycle, the person is pretty much a little bit, they're able to adapt their training there, and they start running very close to what they used to, or they think, because they put in a lot more volume in that week, in those 3 weeks that what they used to put before with a more intense workout. So they put in more volume, they're getting more fitness. So it works out pretty well. But I tell you that it's 90% stubbornness of the person will really determine how long they're going to put that. If they listen to the coach, I would say 3 weeks. The first cycle of training, 3-4 weeks, is going to be what takes the longest.
Okay. So going into this race, what was the most hours of training you put in 1 week?
I put, if we say just bike run, swim bike run, I will say about 18 to 20 hours.
Okay.
And that was my last during the week 4 and 3 before the race. So if we count the weeks backwards, what we call overload training. Yeah.
So were there any days in training where you just mentally didn't want to train?
Absolutely.
How do you?
Absolutely. It has been a long year for me. So yes, I try to look every day separately for one part. Try to not look at what comes next, but at the same time, I try to look at it on the way of these are my last 2 weeks. These are my last 3 weeks. And I've done this for such a long time that I know the feeling when I don't do the workout, or I do it or I do half of the workout. So I hate that feeling the day after when I didn't do the workout. or I did it wrong, or I didn't do enough, and all that. So I try to motivate myself just thinking about that feeling. You're gonna hate it. It's like you're gonna hate it if you don't do this, and and it feels so good after you're done the workout that it gets pretty easy after a while. But I know absolutely what you're saying. Those weeks where you say I have to do 4 hours on the bike, and at that point it was still like 100 degrees, 105 degrees here in Houston. I used to leave at 6:30 in the morning to start my bike ride, meet some friends and go. And then the break was the worst part, when you say like, oh, I'm tired and I still have to do a 35, 40-minute break. So that was the other mental part there. How you're going to get out of the house again and go for a run on the 100 degrees, after a 4-hour bike. So, yeah.
So what do you do when you're not training or racing or traveling?
I'm always training, bicycle, racing, or traveling. I don't know. There's something in the middle called work. It is when I'm not doing that, I'm fixing something in the house or find something to something to do, but it's pretty hard when I'm not biking, or mainly biking. I love cycling, mountain biking, road biking, anything like that. I love that. So it's pretty hard. If I'm not doing that, is pretty much you cover my whole life on those three.
Well, you're also married too, right?
Yeah, I'm married with kids. Yes.
So you have a family that also needs some of your time.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My family, of course, I spend time with my family and all that, but I thought that you were talking about a little bit more general way.
Yeah. So,
my family is there. We spend a lot of time together. My kids race too. So, yeah.
So how big of an issue is balancing life, work, and training, and making sure you're spending enough time with your family, your work, with coaching, and getting the quality training that you need in for your race?
With the time, I think that it had got easier. The first years when I started doing Ironman were pretty rough, especially when the kids were younger. But my family, my wife understood that this is what I like. And everybody made a little bit of sacrifices on their side. My kids do tries too, so they make it easy. It made it a lot easier for everybody to understand after everybody's doing the same thing. Work, I try to manage do my workouts in the morning and do half of my workouts in the morning and the afternoon. I don't work in an office anymore. But when I used to work in an office, I used to swim in the morning, bike in the afternoon, or bike in the morning, run in the afternoon, depending on what I will have to do, but try to separate those two workouts there in the middle. Now I have the opportunity, and sometimes I swim at noon, but it's pretty much, that's the way I balance the thing. Putting the workouts never had been a problem. The problem always was the quality of my recovery. How many hours I was able to sleep, if I was able to hit the foam roller, the normal tech, it's funny because when you go to the office of a triathlete, you find foam rollers, sticks, everything is about recovery, the way you eat and all that. So life, after a while, you start morphing your life around the sport.
Right. So with your day-to-day nutrition, how are you able to maintain your weight or even lose weight, being that you don't want to bring excess weight to the starting line to race on, and you're still having to fuel for the race? How are you managing this without gaining weight?
Well, let's start from the basics. You should not try to have a big change or weight loss on the last month for a specific race. Even for the last 3 months, because that's really going to affect your training. If you don't put the amount of calories, if you don't fuel yourself right before the race, and in all your training is going to be miserable. What you're looking for here is to try to have a gradual weight loss. You plan your season. You say, okay, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna lose. If for example, if you want to lose 10, 15 pounds, you try to lose those 10, 15 pounds in 6 months or maybe in a year, but try to do it in a very gradual way that is not that miserable. How you manage that, you have to start. My recommendation would be always try to work with a professional nutritionist, somebody that knows about it, and they can give you a good advice. I work with several from the team that I work for, and some local nutritionists that have worked out pretty well for me. But there's a point that you have to create a lifestyle for you, and don't think that don't try to make changes at the end of the training, or don't try to make hard changes at the end, because that's really going to affect your quality of training and even your race.
Right. So to transition a little bit here to the actual race at Waco, when did you want to start going up to Waco from where you live now, which is down in the Houston area?
I live in the north of Houston, that is in the Woodlands. That cuts about 45 minutes an hour of driving. So I left that the morning before around, I picked up my friend at his house about 8. We went for a big breakfast, and then we drove there. We got to Waco around 11:30. It took 2.5 hours with a gas stop, and that's it.
Nice.
It was pretty easy. That was good.
So, being that you've been to a lot of expos and Ironman villages before, what was your impression of this one versus the other ones in comparison?
Actually, I got very impressed by the expo. I really like the way that they set it up. Even looked like an Ironman, like a full Ironman expo. I love the expo next to the lake, to the river. They did a good job, and the weather was fantastic at that point too, so that helped a lot. But they did a great job. I have to say that they did a great job on the expo and the transition area, the way that they was set up. They had a very, very good venue there.
Nice. So I know it started raining a lot with the Waco area, and there was a lot of chatter about the swim. Is it going to be canceled? Is it too rough? And the E. coli and all of this started going in there. How did you let this impact you or not impact you in your thought process of the race?
The way I do it is the same way that a coach told me one time. You are going to train and prepare for the race as it's going to be a full race. Doesn't matter what. If the rate changes, you just don't unpack your wetsuit, but you're still going to bring your wetsuit. You're going to bring your speed suit. You're going to be ready to swim 1,900 meters and, have your race ready. You're going to do all your training. Don't get to the race thinking that it's going to be cancel the swim or some part of the race, because you're going to get surprised by that. And honestly, I try to stay away from I wait to the last moment to really know what's going to happen, because you cannot do anything to control that. It's like the weather, you cannot do anything about it. You cannot control how hot or how cold it's going to be. You just have to be ready for whatever it is. But that's the way I think. And that's the way I act, I've been in many races when they start talking about how hot it's going to be, how cold it's going to be, is it going to rain, is it not going to rain. I just try to monitor the thing and don't let that to control my anxiety or my thought process. And that's something that I tell my athletes to, just control what you can control. You cannot do anything about the weather. You cannot do anything about it, but you have to be ready for whatever is going to happen.
Right. So this year at Galveston, it was really cold, and that really changed in the last 2 days of this cold front just coming out of nowhere, and you had to prepare for that. Did you learn anything from that race that you'd want to share with the listeners?
I actually love it. I think that I'm being a big guy, we love cold races. So I didn't have any problem with the cold. Just was very cold in the morning, wear an extra sweater, a hoodie, and pretty much that's it. And jump on the bike, and I didn't even wear arm warmers for the bike. So, and I ran, and I had a great run. Great run. And just finished my race. Was a little bit cold at the end, change, and put a sweater on, and that's it.
Wow.
So, I know that there's a lot, and again, I'm a male, 6'3", 195 pounds. You cannot compare me to a girl that is 5'2", and 110, 120 pounds. So the body difference are, there's something that makes a big impact there. The same thing will happen on the other way if it is a race like Ironman Texas, that like the old Ironman Texas that got between 80 to 90 degrees with 100% humidity. She's 120 pounds. She's not going to suffer as much as I do. So that's the other side of it,
Right. So going into this race, how was your bike check-in?
It was very nice. Normal, no issues. Just drop my bike, put everything together, and put the stickers on, and just leave it there. It was good. No problems, no issues.
Now, the day before the race, are you wanting to get in a certain meal or monitor your nutrition plan a certain way? What does your nutrition like the day before look like?
I try to stay away from any fiber and try to, of course, stay away from fat or anything that has fat. So my nutrition was, we had pizza and we had pasta, pretty much as what we did the day before, and a lot of pancakes in the morning. That was pretty much
in the morning.
Yeah, a lot of carbohydrates.
Nice. And what was for lunch?
For lunch, we have a big pizza with chicken. Yeah. Actually, we had two, but that was a mistake.
Was it a mistake? I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose any weight now, right?
Well, that's not the time to lose weight, as I said before.
Exactly. And so you're going to bed the night before the race. You obviously know there's no swim the next day. How are you preparing yourself mentally for this race?
I knew that I did my homework. I knew that I did all my training. And I was confident of everything I did. I got everything ready. I was already had everything, all my equipment ready, and all my clothes and nutrition, everything was ready. So at that point, what I try to think is try to not jump into an anxiety cycle and not letting me sleep. For me, it's very important to sleep the day before, but to try to have some sleep. Because otherwise, you wake up in the morning, you're going to be even more anxious because you didn't sleep. So I try to just relax and try to fall asleep as fast as I could. And understand that at the end of the day, we do this for fun. A lot of us, I know that there's cases like the pro triathletes, but for us, the age groupers, we do this for fun. And pretty much that's what relax me, I do this for fun. I just going to have a good time. I have everything ready. I did all my training. That's something that pretty much calmed me down. And going back to a question that you did about 10 minutes ago, this is the moment that I said, thanks God I did those 2 weeks of training that they feel pretty hard. At this point, I'm like, I did everything I needed to do. And I'm ready.
So you don't have any regrets.
Exactly.
The race. Nice.
Literally.
So you go to bed, then what time are you waking up, and what are you doing before you leave your hotel, before you actually head to the race venue? This episode is sponsored by Wasatch Apparel. Wasatch Apparel was founded on the belief that everyone should have the ability to have custom quality apparel without the stress of dealing with large clothing companies. The vision of Wasatch Apparel is to provide the highest quality apparel for endurance and fitness enthusiasts. They specialize in custom triathlon and cycling gear. Whether you're an individual that wants to make an impression or a large team that needs kits for everyone, Wasatch Apparel has the highest quality and customer service to deliver exactly what you need. Thank you, Wasatch Apparel, for sponsoring this episode. So, you go to bed, then what time are you waking up, and what are you doing before you leave your hotel, before you actually head to the race venue?
I went to bed around 10. We woke up at, the goal was to be there at 7. So we woke up at 6. We were about 10 minutes from the race. And we knew the parking was going to be pretty easy. So woke up at 6, shower, change, and then got my breakfast and just drove to the race location and got everything ready. Jump on the bike and wait.
Okay. So you're putting a lot of PSI.
Let me tell you something that might help you. My number was, I was on the 200s. So, I needed to be there. I was like on the first 10, 15 minutes of people starting. So really needed to be early. So that's the reason why it started at 6.
Right.
If I was on the thousands, trust me, I was going to be there about 8.
So you're putting a little bit of PSI in your wheels here, a little bit more than I normally have on here, which is 140 PSI in your tubular wheels. So you're using tubular. Yeah. Why are you using tubular, and why so much PSI?
The reason why I use tubulars, it comes more from my previous coaches that used tubulars. I have my wheels. Those wheels have been with me for a long time, so I always use tubulars. The tubular tire can get up to 160, 180. So there's a lot less rolling resistance with that. I know that the other thing is for aerodynamic reasons, I have a 23 on the front and a 25 on the back. So the 23 needed a little bit more of air. So I try to compensate those two. Regularly for training, I ride 25 millimeters or even 28 that, I can ride on 100 PSI. The other thing is that I'm a big guy. 200 pounds needs a lot of air to hold it there. So that's the only reason. And I got recommended by somebody to use that level of, that PSI there.
Okay.
Somebody that I trust. So, and it pretty much worked out.
So whenever you actually get ready to start lining up and heading out, the pro men go, then the pro women go, how long was it before you actually got ready to get on the road as well?
Took about 10 minutes.
That's not bad.
As I said, I was on number 214, so it was pretty close to the front.
Okay. So you get out on the road. How does the first 2 miles go for you?
It went pretty well. Was trying to get rid of a little bit of the traffic. But the same thing, trying to sell my power, but it went pretty well. The first miles were pretty good road-wise. The roads were in pretty good condition at that point.
Right. So I actually had a guy on earlier this year from Haines City, and he weighed 235 pounds, and he was rocking 85 PSI on his bike. So what do you think about that?
Depends on the size of the tire. If you have a 28 millimeter tire, you can put you don't have any problem putting 85, 100 psi. You might not have a pinch flat, but if you're riding smaller size tires, you're going to need a little bit more air.
Okay. And that makes sense. Now, whenever you think about the aid stations here, being that you've done so many races, did you have enough time to get what you needed from the aid stations before you handed off or got rid of what you didn't need? Was it congested? What was this like?
I think that it worked pretty well. I had no issues. There was not that congested. Again, I was on the front of the race, so I didn't really get that much traffic. I don't know how it was for people on the back. I heard some people that had to spend a lot of time passing, but I was surprised at how spread out it was, at least on my race, on where I was. So I didn't have any problems grabbing 2 bottles on the air station, no issues.
Nice. So for this, were you going to hit a certain power number or a certain 3-second average or 5-second average? What did this look like for you?
I did it by, as I said, by power. The weather helped to not get my heart rate so high, so I did it pretty much by power. So yeah, it was 3-second number there by power.
Okay.
Power 3 seconds, yes.
So are you going to hit a certain percentage of your FTP?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What does that look like?
Wanted to do I talked to my coach and we were talking about between 240 and 250.
Okay. What percentage is that for you?
That will be the Sun 3. So my Sun 3 on power, but percentage-wise, I have changed some during the time. So I just calculated based on my training, on my numbers from my training. So that's how I did it.
Okay. On the bike ride, did you see a lot of flats on the bike ride or wrecks or anything?
I didn't see any flats. I actually had a little wreck on one of the turns with gravel. Yes, I did.
Oh wow.
On one of the turns, a cone was set up wrong, and when I turned, there was gravel on the other side, and I had a slip and had a good amount of road rash right now on my body. So. Yeah.
Wow. So where was this? What mile marker was this at, you think?
35.
It's just like this one rogue cone out?
I think that it was a combination of both because I couldn't take the turn on the right way. And I hit pretty much, and the way that the road was there was like a little slip on outside the road, so it was gravel, and then it was like a decline on the other side. So when I turned, the wheel just it was a little slip there. Felt hold my shoulder just to be sure that everything was in place. Felt sorry for myself for 2 or 3 seconds, and then jumped on the bike and kept going.
Wow. So I know this isn't your first time to wreck. I mean, you did Leadville this year. I mean, come on. So knowing that this isn't your first time to wreck, even during a race, what are some things that you did that someone that might have wrecked in the very first race they've ever done, what are some tips that you would give them to handle this situation?
Understand that this is, first of all, understand that this is nobody's fault. Or you might have made mistakes, or somebody else might have made mistakes, but I'm sure that it wasn't the intention, First that, and then trying to look for the positive side of it, trying to not get too negative about it, trying to not get too hung on the fact that you failed, because there's a long time on the race and there's a lot of time for recovery. So if you just spend as I said, I felt sorry for myself for 2 or 3 seconds, and then like, switch, go, let's go. You cannot do anything about it, then just switch and go. So I think that's try to switch your mind and try to go to the positive side, and don't stay on feeling sorry for yourself and just, if I didn't, I'd lose all that time. If I didn't wreck, look at my leg, and now my hip hurts. You know, if you start thinking about other things, you're going to have an even worse race. When at the end of the day, maybe you can turn it around, you know? So that's my side of it. Don't get to the run. Yeah, you felt, you scratch yourself, you jump on the bike and keep going, you know? Keep going. Try to go at the speed. If something hurts, just assess yourself and be sure that, of course, you can ride safely. And if everything is okay, let's say okay, like a big quote, because I was bleeding, my knee was bleeding, my shoulder was bleeding, you know, just go, get to transition, start running, and try to forget about it, you know. Adrenaline is going to make it's going to make a lot easier, and just one, you know, cross the finish line and then just tell the stories. It's going to make it even more epic. So just, a lot of people get hung on it and start feeling sorry and look how I look. And if I didn't fall, I could have done 2 minutes faster, 3 minutes faster. The time passes in like a slow motion at those moments. And you feel like you lost 20 minutes when you really lost 2. Right. So just try to not get hung on it.
How would you know if you should stop the race altogether versus continuing?
I think that there's 3 ways of that it could happen. There's the way that you really cannot do anything. You broke something and you know that you cannot move. The other option is you get out of it, you jump on the bike, and then you're going to have a pain that you say, this is not normal. Let me see if I can make it to transition. And the other one is that you say, you know what, I'm just crashed. It hurts, but I think that I can finish my race, you know, and try to make something of this. So there's where you have to assess, you know, where you are, you know. Of course, if you feel like you have a broken bone or something, you don't want to make it worse. So, you know, trying to assess the things on the right way.
Right. So as far as the bike ride goes at Waco this year, what is something that you would tell someone to be aware of that hasn't done this bike course before?
Well, first of all, I think that they make some changes on the course before the race because of the floods. So I don't think that it's going to be the same course this year. Next year, I mean. The bike is not flat, but it's not flat. There's a lot of inclines, but it's not impossible. And actually, I think that it was a pretty fun bike. I think that it requires training. If you were going to train for something on this race, I would train for the bike mainly. But it's a lot of fun. It can be a little bit technical, as you can tell, with the turns and all that. But and I know that there was a lot of people that felt on certain sections of the bike also. But it was actually fun. I had a good time on the bike.
Okay. So as you get ready to get off of the bike and get in a T2 here, are you doing anything to start preparing to start running?
Well, my preparation for the run is during the whole bike. I try to stay as hydrated as I can. And I try to be on the top of my nutrition the whole bike. I think that set up my run. Of course, the pacing is another factor that helps a lot for my run. What I do before, I'll just, try to look at the number at my distance and say, okay, you're about 5 miles away. Just try to chill out. It's going to be over. Just try to switch your mind a little bit around the run, but not in a way of, oh my God, I have to run a half marathon now. No, it's more like just get ready, drink whatever you have to drink, take a gel, an extra gel, all that, and get yourself ready for it.
Okay. So as you're in T2, you're in there for less than 4 minutes here before you're out on the run. How does this go for you?
The T2, it was a long way from when you dismount to the exit of the run. So, I just have to say that it was a long, kind of long way. But, I tried to keep my transitions under 3 minutes. So it was I remember being a long way of transitioning there.
Okay. So as you're heading out on the run, what was your mindset or goal for this run course?
I didn't really knew the run course. I had a couple of surprises.
Really? Like the hills?
Yes. I worked with my coach on what pace I was going to hold and what heart rate I was going to hold. So I was trying to stay on that. The first, for me, and I think that everybody else, for the first 1 or 2 miles on a half marathon feel weird, especially on a half Ironman. Your body gets like, your legs learn again to, okay, what are we doing here? I thought that we were biking, and now they're like, oh, we're running now. So, you have to get your legs used to it. I know that feeling and I identify it. So I just said, this is normal. You're going to feel better later. And just try to monitor my heart rate and don't go too hard at the beginning. That's pretty much what I do. Pretty much that's what I do on the first 2 or 3 miles, and it's pretty much what I did there too.
Okay.
For me, the first 2-3 miles passed pretty mentally easy. I start suffering after mile 8. That's pretty much what I do.
So did you have a certain pacing goal that you wanted to hit on this as far as the first 2 miles versus the last 5 miles? What is this?
Yeah, I wanted to, as I said, I really didn't know what the run course, I was counting on only one hill. And apparently they had little baby hills on the one night because they multiplied. So, yeah, the elevation influenced my run on this. I had a pace set up with my coach, and I tried to stick to that pace, especially at the beginning, the first 4 miles. You cannot do anything when you're going. I don't know how inclined were those hills, but they felt like they were between 6 and 8%.
Wow.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating. They feel pretty steep. So, as they say, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So when you go and say, "Oh, I'm gonna run 8-minute mile the whole thing," and then you hit that wall like that, they'll say, like, "Okay, my pace is gonna change now." So everybody has I had a plan of being like around 8-minute mile, and now it didn't work out for me.
Wow. So as far as the people on the course that you saw, the spectators, the volunteers, what was the funniest thing that you saw on course?
What was the funniest thing that I saw on course? Well, one of my athletes having a conversation with another guy while he was going uphill, and I was yelling at him like, "Hey, you're not going hard enough if you're talking." So I think that was the funniest thing, his ability to talk to anybody, anywhere, everywhere. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
So whenever you start thinking of how hard this race was for you in comparison to other races you've done, how hard was this race for you mentally?
It wasn't, I feel like I was trained well for this race. And I'm happy with what I did. I know that I could have gone, I could have gone a little bit faster, depending on other situations. Like I didn't fall. They were not, I had a better run or I could have lost more weight. But, there are all those ifs, so I try to not get hung off on that. And as I said before, just think that I'm doing this for fun.
Right.
I put all my effort on it. I just have to say that. And I'm trying to qualify for Worlds. And I wanted to see how well I did on my age group on this race. I think I did pretty well, comparing for the plan that I'm looking for. I know that this race was going to be pretty hard to qualify for Worlds because there were not going to be that many spots. So I think I'm pretty happy, very, very happy. I would like to have a swim. I think that it would have helped me to have a swim, especially I've been swimming a lot in the last 2 years, and I feel like my swim has improved a lot compared to other years. So I think that a swim could have moved me a little bit higher in position. But, it is what it is. Going back to the if,
Right.
You cannot do anything about it.
So miles 10, 11, and 12, you're coming off of the lollipop of the hills. It's almost flat here. You're approaching the last mile of the race. How is this for you?
This course was kind of mean. It had some good hills there. There was a false flat there at the last 2 miles, and it was exposed. It hurt.
Really?
Those last 2 miles hurt more than anything else. And I tell you, there was this false flat. It was exposed. You see for a long distance how far you had to go. So it was mentally hard. But at the same time, I was trying to think about I was looking at the other side. That is, you just have another 2 miles to run. You just be sure that you put what you can, and it's going to be over soon. In 16 to 18 minutes should be done. And after you cross the finish line, you're done. So keep going. That's what I did. Yeah. Almost there. Keep going. Put the last effort. You're gonna love it at the end. It's going back to the feeling, to how you want to feel after the race. That is really something that you have to put in your mind when you're suffering on those moments. It's like how you want to remember that moment later, because you only have one shot at the end of the day.
Right. So the last 800 meters of the run here, what was this like for you? Being that it's pretty much all on that bridge, right?
Yes. I remember going through the last aid station, and I remember there was a little bit of dirt road there, and there was like that turn with the stairs, or I don't know where it was, stairs, or I remember it was uphill. Oh, my hamstring was suffering so much there, and then you run on the bridge. Just trying to turn around and be sure that there was nobody coming behind me, and trying to not lose another position. But the bridge was great. They did a great job on that finish line. Actually, I've done a lot of races, and this has been one of my favorite finish lines. I have to say that. And I had a good time. On that. I found somebody at the almost crossing the finish line, good lady friend that gave her a hug and cross the finish line, and good times. And that was the moment to, feel sorry for myself, look at my shoulder, look at my leg, but I crossed the finish line. So, that was the right moment,
Man. So after you finish, what'd you do next?
I have a mountain bike race tomorrow. It's a 20-mile mountain bike race here close to where we live in Huntsville. Should be fun. I like that. I spend my whole week trying to recover, take care of my road rash, and, eating well and try to foam roll, went for massage, normal tech, that's it.
Nice. So
after the mountain bike race, doing the Houston half marathon, so I'm gonna start running, take a week or two off, and start on my run training.
Okay. So looking back on it, what is something that you learned about this race experience that you'd want to pass on to someone who hasn't done this specific race before?
I honestly, I like the race, and I do believe that it was a hard race. If you're going to come to this race and they keep the same course, you need to be sure to be able to handle the bike in the right way. You need to be good, have pretty good bike handling. That's one of the things. I will, if you can get a little bit more of hill workouts, maybe run uphill or something like that, that's going to help you. But I think the most important thing is that you have a very good block of bike that allow you to deal with the elevation of the race, and be sure that you can ride outside and you are able to handle your bike on the right way. Don't let the course surprise you.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
So it seems like knowing how to handle your bike and also being prepared.
It comes from a guy that fell off the bike, so.
Right. Yeah. Now, you did Austin 70.3 in the past, right?
I done Austin 70.3. I did it 3 times, yes.
Okay. How would you compare that bike course to this bike course?
I cannot. I had to be fair with the Waco race because they had to change the course. Every time that I did the Austin race, I had a good time, and I had actually PR on that race because that bike being so technical, it worked out pretty well for me. The Waco race have a lot of turns, so that affects your momentum, that affects your speed, and also affects if you're not careful like me, you can turn and hit your knee on the ground. So I never had that problem in Austin. In Austin, I know that there was a lot of people that didn't like Austin because there was a lot of they considered that the road wasn't in good condition, but the conditions of this road for this particular case, and I have to be fair on that, were not the best. So, just to be fair, they changed the course because of the floods. So I hope that next year the roads are in better conditions, because there were points that it was pretty rough.
Right. So for first timers that are doing this race next year, what advice would you give them?
Don't just train for Waco. Be sure that you're training all year, trying to keep yourself motivated the whole year. If you decide to do a half Ironman, try to plan a season, start with some sprint races, Olympic distance. Find a coach. I think that's something important. Find a qualified coach, and I'm not saying. No, well, I was about to say that part. It doesn't have to be me, but find somebody that takes that give you a crash course of the things that you have to understand, the right training, the right distance on the bike, the right nutrition, how much you're gonna run, how to deal with the heat and the humidity. Understand equipment, understand how you should feel in a race and what is normal and what is not normal. I think that's super important, that you have that feeling. But the most important thing is that try to have a year of training under your legs before doing a half Ironman.
Okay.
you're going to have a better experience and you're going to have a lot better race.
Don't just go out there and do it in 6 months of getting in the sport.
Yeah, and it's my point of view. My advice. I know that there's a lot of people that might think different, but if you want to have if you say, hey, I want to do a half Ironman, try to plan a year and try to put little races in the middle and try to have a structured plan for that. And that's something else that a coach is going to help you with. To have a structured plan and say that you're going to do your 2019 Waco. Hey, I want to do 2018. Where you're going to have a year of training. So you can start swimming. You can start putting all the swimming that you need to put. You can start running all the run that you have to do, your lift weights, all your strength training, all the get a bike fit, get the right bike, the right equipment, all that. So for this race, try to do some sprints in the first 4 months, and then jump to some Olympics and do some training on the heat for the summer, and then just do your race. You're gonna have a lot more fun than just going to Waco and do half Ironman as your first distance.
Right. So we covered a lot about your race. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I do have to say that I will recommend the Waco race. It was a good race. I think that it was very well organized and they put a lot of effort. You notice how much effort they put on the race. They tried to do the best they could. They were not lucky with the conditions, with the floods and all that, but I think that they did a great work with what they have on trying to put a great race. So I have to say, I have to congratulate them because I think that they did a great job there. You notice how much effort they put on it. Also, the town was happy to have everybody there. I talked to plenty of people in town from the guy that was sitting next to me on the table when we were for lunch, to the lady in the hotel, and everybody was pretty pleased and happy that we were there. And they helped out pretty well.
Nice.
The volunteers were fantastic also. I have to say that. So
good.
Thanks to the volunteers.
So what's next for you?
Houston half. I'm trying to see if I can get into Leadville 100 next year again. See if I can improve my time there. Doing Galveston. Trying to think. I'll try to do Utah. The
St. George?
St. George 70.3. The goal is to try to qualify for Worlds again. So that's the goal for 2019, is see if I can get into Worlds.
Awesome. So you've been in the sport for some time now. What races are still on your bucket list?
Bucket list races, Rot, the Challenge Rot. I would like to do that when I go back to my long distance races. Right now that comes to my mind, that will be the one.
When do you think you'll get to it? 2020?
I don't have a time right now. Honestly.
I mean, you're getting younger by the day.
Yeah. But no, just trying to not plan to 2020 right now. Honestly.
Nice.
Let's see how it goes.
So, if athletes want to follow you and reach out to you, how can they follow you?
They can follow me on Facebook. They can follow me on Instagram. I'm also a coach for Outrival Racing. They can find me on outrivalracing.com. I'm one of the coaches there for Outrival Racing, and pretty much that's it. that's the way they can follow me.
Nice. Well, Raul, I only have one more question to conclude the episode, and it's always my favorite question to ask, and that's, what's your definition of a perfect race?
I say the perfect race is the one that doesn't matter what the results are. When you cross the finish line, you're happy. I think that there's not going to be a race where the conditions are going to be exactly what you're expecting for. So if you're able to deal with whatever the race throw to you, that's a perfect race, especially on long distance Ironman and half Ironman. Also, for me, my preferred race is where I'm racing with friends and family is around. That's another good day for me and that's why one of the reasons why I love so much to do Ironman Texas is because it's in my hometown and my family and my friends are there. So it's fantastic when you have people there too that you see when you're suffering. So it's great.
Wow. Well, Raul, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with me today. I've enjoyed it. I look forward to following you at the Houston half, and I might even see you down there at Galveston.
Thank you, man. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Have a good day, okay? Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.